I would like to share with you a really funny story. Especially I thought it was appropriate that this week is World Meditation Day, International Meditation Day. I've learned a lot about meditation and being more mindful as a person since my journey in Japan began 16 years ago. We actually celebrated our 16th birthday in Japan. That is the Perfect Potion started in Japan. In that first year, I remember being introduced to a lovely priest who spoke really good English at one of the beautiful temples in Kyoto. Matsuyama-san always made time to speak with me. We seemed to connect, and he was quite happy to give me advice. Or maybe he was being amused by some of the silly questions that I would ask him. I just wanted to share one particular moment with you. And I must admit, please don't feel offended by this, but back then, this happened now 16 years ago, I did ask some pretty dumb questions. I remember once talking to him, I was feeling rather angry. I don't know if it was envy or jealousy as well. We were busy setting up our first shop, and I was just feeling a little bit stressed and a bit overwhelmed with work. But we had arranged to have a meeting with Matsuyama-san, and I sat. This was April as well, and if you know Japan, the cherry blossoms are out in April, and Taozo-in Temple has the most beautiful pond and garden, and they have this beautiful little gazebo area, and we were sitting under the gazebo area, and the wisterias were in flower as well. It was just the perfect setting. And I started to challenge Matsuyama-san. I said, Matsuyama-san, you obviously have time to meditate. You're a priest, so you can meditate all day. This is how naive I was. I proceeded to say, but the world needs engineers, the world needs doctors, the world needs bus drivers. It was pretty obvious what I was insinuating. Matsuyama-san always had this way of talking. He would listen to me, and then he wouldn't respond straight away. This, for somebody who's used to talking all the time, in the beginning, made me feel rather uncomfortable and nervous. He then, after pausing for what seemed eternity, probably only 30 seconds or so, he would say, Sao-san, of course, you are correct. He then waited. He said, Sao-san, let me tell you a story. Because he knew what I was insinuating. He said, Sao-san, when I was young, I didn't want to necessarily be a priest, so I went off to university. I forget what he said, that he had studied English literature or sake making. And he said, I had a good time at uni with my friends. But by the time I finished my studies, I decided to join the priesthood and join my family's temple. He said, just several months ago, I had a phone call from one of my friends. It had been like 10, 20 years now. Don't know how long, but some time had passed. He had a phone call from one of his friends who had studied at uni. At this stage, I sometimes get a bit emotional. He said, my friend was on the phone. He didn't want to go home to his family. He was feeling rather stressed and under a lot of pressure. He wanted to end his life. He said, I stayed on the phone that night until I knew that he was safe enough to go home. It was at that point I realized how stupid my question was about saying the world needs this and the world needs that. The world also needs spiritual guides. The world needs priests to help us on our journey, especially when we encounter those rough moments in life. So at that stage I did burst into tears, and I apologized to Matsuyama-san, and he, as usual, just stayed quiet for a few seconds, seemed like eternity, and said, "Sao-san, it is all right." At that moment, I remember just looking up. It was such a beautiful day, and I'd forgotten what a gorgeous day it was. And this little bird flew and landed on the gazebo. And everything just seemed to stop. Have you ever had one of those moments? Everything just stopped. And this little bird, I mean, it was a little finch, just did a pee. I could see it clearly. I'll be honest, I'd never seen a little bird do a pee in the tree. And I got so excited. I said, "Matsuyama-san, did you see that? The little bird just did a pee." He smiled, stopped, didn't say anything. And after about 30 seconds, he said, "Sal, see what happens when you slow down and you are just you become synchronized with nature, with your surroundings. You become one with them. You observe everything around you." I'll never forget that moment. And that was the first lesson, because I had been so angry, saying I'm finding it too difficult to meditate. You've got the time to meditate. But that moment, I realized I had found this beautiful meditative state. Every morning nowadays when I wake up and I do my meditation practice, I wake up just before sunrise, just before all the birds start singing and whistling, and it's incredible. I actually enjoy that meditation practice, listening to all the sounds of the birds, this beautiful symphony saying it's going to be a magnificent and glorious day. I hope you get to have many moments like that moment that I had with Matsuyama-san, and that I have every morning when I do my little, and it's often just a very little 5-minute meditation practice. Thank you so much.